We are just 11 days away from April 20th. A lot of people are asking me, should I be worried about martial law? My answer, very vehemently, is no. You should not be. For those of you unaware of the significance of April 20th, that is the 90-day mark of an executive order that was signed when Trump took office. An executive order that told his Department of Homeland Security, as well as some other agencies, that after 90 days, you were to write a recommendation on whether or not to invoke the Insurrection Act. That's what has people freaking out. The problem is that the scope of that report is strictly narrowed to the southern border. Trump is looking for a recommendation on whether or not to enact the Insurrection Act to control the southern border, not for any other purpose. People are then drawing the parallel to, well, if he can invoke the Insurrection Act, then he will probably declare martial law altogether. I found a fantastic article from the Brennan Law Center that I will link in my link tree in my bio. It is very heavily laden with legalese and jargon, but it is a fantastic read if you have any questions as to whether or not Trump can declare unilaterally martial law in this country. I'm just going to show you the conclusion of that article from the Brennan Law Center, but if you would like me to make a video that goes point by point, explaining what they explained to me as I read it, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know in the comments. Here we go. The law governing martial law is complicated and unsettled, but a few principles can be found in the Supreme Court's ruling on the topic and on the limits of executive power more generally. The Constitution gives Congress authority to regulate the domestic deployment of the military, and Congress has enacted comprehensive legislation in that area. Because that legislation does not include authorization for the President to impose martial law, the President has no power to do so. Even if Congress were to provide authorization, the Supreme Court has not conclusively decided that the federal government is constitutionally empowered to declare martial law, but it is clear that such a power, if it existed, would have to be exercised within the bounds of the Constitution, and the military's action would be subject to judicial review. So what does that mean? It means that the Constitution does not give power to anybody in the federal government to declare martial law. It is implied in the Constitution, and there are a couple of rulings from the Supreme Court that also implies it, but it has never made a comprehensive or conclusive ruling. However, that last bit is important. Even if martial law was declared by Congress, President gave the approval, Supreme Court signed off on it, any action that happens during martial law is still subject to judicial review, meaning the Constitution does not get suspended during martial law. That's not how that works. There is no mechanism to throw out the First Amendment for freedom of expression. There is no mechanism to throw out the Fourth Amendment, freedom from unlawful searches and seizures. Anything that took place to anybody during a martial law declaration would still be subject to judicial review. You are still protected under the Constitution, even in an event of martial law. So take a breath, don't panic. And if you're following anybody on social media, on any platform that is actively pushing the idea that martial law will absolutely 100% certainly be declared, or that there's a better chance than not that it will be, I would strongly reconsider following that person.